All right. Welcome on in to another action-packed, fun, and live edition of the Between the Hash Marks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, and the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone. Mike Tanier is here with week one of the preseason in the books, injuries mounting across the league, joint practices in full swing. Football's back, baby, and better than ever.
Football's back better than ever. We're here. We're not at the joint practices of the Eagles and the Patriots, where so many of our friends are there right now. And news is breaking. You want to hear the latest news?
Let's hear the breaking news. Breaking news alert.
A.J. Brown might be speaking as we do this right now, because they were lining up for his press conference as we were getting ready. And this comes from Andrew Callahan, a Patriots reporter. They asked A.J. Brown, "Have you spoken to Jalen Hurts since the trade?" And A.J. Brown said, "No."
Wow. Okay. I don't know that I'm surprised by that, because I don't know that I think that the whole reason A.J. Brown is a New England Patriot is because the chemistry and the cohesion and the identity of that offense and the relationship between the quarterback and the wide receiver and the head coach and the wide receiver fell apart down the stretch and in the postseason last year, right? So are we surprised that they're not talking?
You know what? I've got friends that I haven't spoken to since June either. So there's that. But I don't think that's the case of what's going on here. This isn't like old people who have a hard time catching up with each other anymore. We know what's happening. It was just funny. He got a one-word response from A.J. Brown, which is better than the poetry Instagram that you would normally get from A.J. Brown in a situation like this.
At least it wasn't Cryptic Brown at the podium, and it was an abridged version of Fight Club. You're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. We're going to talk and go in depth on Fight Club in this podcast episode. Some greatest hits of the training camp fights we've covered in the past. Take the temperature of the Fight Club quarterback battles, or at least the temperature of the rookie quarterbacks in their preseason debuts last week. The Fight Club taking place in East Rutherford in the Giants depth chart, and a whole lot more. But before we get into all of that, little bit of housekeeping for you. If you enjoy the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. They really do help grow the show. They help people find us easier in the algorithm. They help boost us up the rankings. And if you leave us a 5-star review, whether you like us or not, if you don't like us, just type in the 5 stars. Let us know why you don't like us, and we'll read it on the air. We've done it before, right, Mike?
Absolutely right. It is an attention economy. We crave your attention. Good reviews, bad reviews. Just as long as a 5-star review, give us an opportunity to come out here, rip ourselves, thank you, etc. Help us grow this podcast.
And we'll mention you on the air. We'll read the entire review. You can also subscribe in the iHeartRadio podcast, the Amazon Music and Alexa app. You can listen to us there. And of course, if you enjoy Mike Tanier's brand of sports writing, storytelling, mixing in dad jokes and superhero comparisons and deep analytic dives, subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. His walkthrough column on Monday is always appointment reading. I was stopped in my tracks this week because you did the breakdown. You did God's work for the people who have lives and don't need to watch and can't watch or don't want to watch every snap of the preseason. You watched every snap. You gave all of the takeaways for all of the teams, and you told it like it is, like you always do, that the Denver Post can't write that the Falcons suck 37 times in 500 inches of column, but you can, and you did.
Thank you very much. To be clear, I did not watch every snap. Do not wish that kind of hell upon me in my old age here. But I watched a lot. Also took the time to find out what's being said at the local level, local bloggers, local reporters. Denver Post didn't say the Falcons sucked. The Denver Post said, we're going to the Super Bowl. And they were in the AFC Championship. That's not crazy. But based off of one quarter against the Falcons, who suck. And I got a chance to do that. And you got a chance to talk to Malachi Fields and some other folks while we were up at the Giants. And we can be able to talk about that a little later.
Absolutely. Malachi Fields, how he developed his catch radius, the Rice Krispie treats that he made for Malik Neighbors in the position group meetings. And if you enjoy those sort of news nuggets and insider reporting and analysis from sources around the league, subscribe at betweenthehashmarks.com. We have a great deal going right now through this Sunday. $1 gets you 3 months free. So $1 locks you into every piece of content, the preseason all access package through week 10 of the regular season. $1 today for 3 months of all access. And Mike, I just want to pull back the curtain a little bit on some of our favorite memories because it was a lot of fun going up to East Rutherford last week with you. Where I had Shake Shack on the side of the road. You had a Popeye's chicken sandwich. We took a trip down memory lane, and then we went to East Rutherford, and it was not exactly the grueling and physical training camp from John Harbaugh that we have been promised that was taking place at the Greenbrier and basically every other day in the swamps of Jersey, other than when we were there.
No, we were warned to get ready for the 2.5-hour grueling practice. And it was a 2.5-hour grueling to watch walkthrough installation, non-contact, zero contact drills is what we saw. The humidity broke, which was good. That helped out a little bit. You still get a lot out of that opportunities. I kind of miss the road to a degree, and how you can see the game close up and see a different game as a result.
Yep, and of course, you can check out our reaction video after practice. Malik Neighbors took part in 11-on-11 drills for the first time that day. But, you brought up a great topic to kick this off. Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned this last week, so we'll go back into it. But right now, it is nothing but fight news. If you go on Pro Football Talk here on Wednesday, the 19th of August, it's story about can't fight, can't fight. The Browns, it was the joint practices. They got rid of, they ended them early because of a fight. Bo Nix and Nick Benito, that's teammates, so it's not a joint practice. They were going at it. The Saints,
Max Crosby and Kirk Cousins had to be suspended for a day, held out of team drills after their dust up in Raiders camp.
Yes, and Kirk Cousins is still complaining because he says his arm keeps getting hit. So he's wearing his red non-contact jersey. He's still getting a helmet to an arm, hand to an arm, stuff like that. He's saying, those add up. You come in and you're already banged up on your throwing arm. That's a big deal when you're any quarterback. All of this stuff is happening right now. But whenever there's a fight in camp, there's always a story about a fight in the camp.
Yes.
There's always quotes about the story because we have to ask the coach about it because we can't write about it unless the coach mentions it. So we always ask the coach, what do you think of the fight? What did you about the fight? And sometimes they go up, but they always say the same thing otherwise. You mentioned a week or two ago about the biggest brawl you ever saw, but you've gone back. Let's reset it. What was the biggest fight you were ever physically present for at a camp?
It was at Giants camp. I remember it was a cloudy day in East Rutherford. This was the Joe Judge era, so all of the reporters were on the patio watching from a distance. And I looked at the exact details up today. We just passed the 5-year anniversary of this brawl. It was August 3rd, 2021. I'm covering the Giants for NJ.com. And Corey Clement, former Eagles running back with the Giants that preseason, just bursts up the middle and gets leveled, right? I mean, there are live practices, and then there's like game hitting. This was one of those hits in a game that make you stand up in the press box and go, whoa, or you see it on TV and you're like, holy hell, what a hit that was. So Clement gets blown up. And Giants tight end Evan Ingram doesn't take too kindly to whoever, the tackle was. I don't remember who actually delivered the hit, but Evan Ingram shoved whoever delivered the blow to the ground. And next thing you know, Logan Ryan, the safety for the Giants at the time, comes in. He starts throwing haymakers, and then you're off to the races. Then it's like everybody, sidelines clear. It was 11-on-11 period. I remember it getting calmed down. I don't know if this is actually how it happened, but I remember it getting calmed down. And then like 2 plays later, another fight happens where Jabril Peppers throws a punch. And then it was a complete brawl, complete melee. Coaches are running in, whistles are blowing. It sounds like a riptide day in Ocean City, New Jersey with the lifeguards and the whistles. It's so nuts. Judge stops practice, and we're 130 yards away, and you hear the F-bombs and the screaming and the cussing out and ripping into his team. He lines them up on the goal line. And you remember the movie Miracle? Where you blow the whistle again?
Yes.
Judge had every Giants player run gassers, 100 yards up, 100 yards back, 4 or 5 times, and then kicked them off the practice field and ended practice early.
Boy, and that really worked out for Joe Judge, a totally normal person who had the respect of the locker room.
It certainly didn't bolster it that afternoon, I don't suppose.
And then you guys all had to write it up, and it was like the story of the day for like 2 days afterwards in Giants.
It was, yeah. Then talk to all the players about it the next day. How did the coaches button that up afterwards? What's the effect on the locker room chemistry? Yada, yada, yada. How about you? You've been to your share of camps. You've probably seen more teams in camp in person than I have in your career. What was the craziest dust up you ever saw?
seen more teams, but far fewer days, because I wasn't day to day in there. And that's where you get the good fights. So I was there for one of the legendary reporter on reporter brawls here in Philadelphia. I was there on the sidelines watching that one unfold. That was interesting. But I'm pulling this one up from an aggregator site, August 20th, 2015. And the aggregator in question is the Christian Post. So guess who this involves?
Oh, no.
That's right. We don't go
St.
through.
Tebow.
This involves Tim Tebow, and a fight broke out, and it was the fourth stringers. It was on the far side of the field, and I had the good fortune or misfortune of saying that Tim Tebow waded in and parted them like the Red Sea on Twitter. So this went viral and got aggregated everywhere. And there's this lengthy article in the Christian Post, which I believe I can't read it right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hear you.
Talking about how Tebow's faith and his convictions and his natural charisma or what have you made the teammates break up. When of course I was being facetious, and he was there because it was the fourth stringers, because it was the time that brief period when Tebow was trying out for the Eagles.
I remember this. I don't know. I don't remember that fight, but I remember him being in training camp. I was there. I had to have been there.
You remember, because let's see if you remember. What was I doing on the sideline instead of tweeting for much of that game?
I'm pretty sure that we were both sitting on the bleachers, because you weren't allowed to sit on the bleachers under Andy Reid. So we were sitting on the bleachers. I think you were eating Rita's. Were you eating Rita's water ice?
Now, to be fair, we were all eating Rita's water ice. We were all, Chip Kelly himself might have been eating Rita's water ice. I was playing Pokemon Snap. Because
the summer of Pokemon.
It was the summer of Pokemon Snap because the Eagles training facility was a Pokemon center.
That's right. I remember that there was like one of them in the auditorium, the Eagles auditorium. You could catch one in the auditorium there.
Yeah, so I caught like a Pidgey or something like that in the auditorium while somebody was speaking. You wonder why I'm doing this now and I'm not on NFL Network. There are probably some good explanations, including the fact that I was there visiting camp and I was messing around with Pokemon Snap. But again, I almost caught a Pidgey on the sidelines because Tim Tebow was throwing football. So.
Gotta love that. Two great fights. You've seen a lot of fights around the league. And I think that there could be some jostling on some of these quarterback depth charts. Maybe not immediately, but maybe quicker than we anticipated, at least based on how these rookie quarterbacks performed in week one of the preseason. I watched some of these games live, went back and watched the condensed versions before we went on the air here today. But I think that all of these teams, whether it is Ty Simpson, especially with the Rams, Drew Aller with the Steelers, Fernando Mendoza, number one overall, Cade Klubnik, we're going to get into that because I have a strong take there for the Jets. All of these teams have to feel at least encouraged by what they saw in the preseason opener.
Right. We didn't see too many preseason disaster quarterback, rookie disaster type of things. Not from the real prospects. When guys get in the fourth quarter, it's whatever. The guys who are coming in first quarter, second quarter, starting the games, generally look pretty good, generally looked rather encouraging. There have been disasters in the past. I'm remembering right now Drew Lock when he first got into a football game for the Broncos. And it was just wall-to-wall chaos, like not being able to understand the snap count, et cetera. That didn't work out too well for him. So you want a good debut, even if though that doesn't always tell you that much about the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know how much I learned about Fernando Mendoza, other than Raiders fans can be excited, right? Because he goes 10 of 16, 97 yards, threw a touchdown, didn't have any turnovers. Right. He looked competent, which is what you wanted to see from the number one overall pick. But we talked about this on the show last week, and I think it was sort of the narrative coming out of Indiana. You wanted to see growth from what he was in Kurt Cignetti's offense, right? You wanted to see that you could take him out of that environment and that he would still thrive at the NFL level. And at the bare minimum, it looks like the game is slowing down for him. I'm still selling on Fernando Mendoza making an immediate impact, but are you buying or selling off of what you saw from him the other night?
Well, a quick preface, like we are not talking about fantasy football here.
No.
So you say buying and selling, it's not like, no, go out and get any of these guys. That's crazy, right? Talking about like the short-term success, getting onto the field early in their careers and maybe getting some wins and being relevant. I'm buying. I think we flipped places on this in the last couple of weeks. So a couple of weeks ago, working off the quotes and things that were being said in camp and like the mistakes that were being made and this very clear messaging, like Kirk Cousins is our quarterback right now. You always hear that. Oh, the starting quarterback's going to start for 2 years and he's going to learn on the bench, and then week 3 it's different. But the messaging seemed to be like Mendoza had bought into that. The guy I saw went out there. He was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you talk about competence and growth. When I'm seeing a rookie quarterback in the preseason and I'm seeing his eyes go, read, throw, and the throw's right, the read's correct, that's a big deal. You don't see a lot of that from in preseason games. When it's straight drop back and you've got a variety of reads to go to. A couple of times he had to scramble. You read, doesn't look good. Hole in front of me, take off now. That's just good instinct for a young quarterback. He's not backing up, running around in circles, doing any of that. All of that stuff I really liked. Gives me the impression that he's going to be a short-term solution, not week 1, because they are invested in Kirk Cousins, but a short-term solution who could come in and play pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think that I'm still of the camp, and I liked a lot of what he did. A couple of the scrambles on the run, made the right read to scramble and get out of the pocket, ran out of bounds, didn't run the contact like we've seen other young quarterbacks do. Namely Jackson Dart and East Rutherford. But, some of the big throws came to guys like Jack Beck, who are going to be figures of that offense. And you and I saw Beck a couple years ago down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, kid catches everything, but they seem to have an instant connection. I just don't know that if I'm the Raiders that I want to rush this. I don't know that I want to throw him to the Wolves when I have paid Kirk Cousins and I still have some moving parts in terms of getting everybody up to speed on the offense. I'm still of the mindset of Kirk Cousins, he's the training wheels. He's the guy who goes out there, gets Jack Beck, gets Brock Bowers, gets Ashton Genty, gets all of these guys kind of up to speed in the scheme so that when Thanksgiving comes along, when December 1st comes along, and you're not making the postseason out of that division this year, so you have nothing left to play for, then you put Mendoza out there with everybody kind of understanding and competing at a high level in the scheme, so you're not learning on the fly.
I have a feeling it's going to be sooner than that. That's something that I think Clint Kubiak would love to hear, love to enact. I think it will be sooner than that. One piece of evidence is there's joint practices right now, Texans against Raiders. There was some big injury news. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver for the Texans, severe injury. That's a big blow to the Texans. Raiders side of the ball, they've been giving Mendoza first team reps against the Texans defense in these camp situations. He's handled it well. I don't have play-by-play or anything like that. Positive reports out of that. That shows that Kubiak, the Raiders, are starting to gain confidence. Doesn't mean week 1, doesn't mean week 3, doesn't mean week 4. It does mean the timetable's in place where that they've accelerated things and there's going to be a confidence in Fernando Mendoza.
And that's a great test, too, because there aren't 3 defenses that are more dominant or stingier or offer better pass rushers than what he's going to see against the Texans. And you talk to coaches about these joint practices. They love these practices. And you saw it today in New England, the Eagles and Patriots ones we touched on, where you have A.J. Brown going up against Quinyon Mitchell. You're getting good on good, running route concepts and running plays from your playbook because you don't have to run a vanilla offense knowing that the game tape from the preseason game goes out to all 32 teams. You look at the Raiders and the Texans practices, the only people getting the practice tape are the Raiders and the Texans. So you can kind of open up the playbook. They can throw the book at him. He can, see how he reacts to a lot of those rush concepts that you're not going to see in a vanilla preseason setting. The fact that he's getting those first team reps, I agree with you. I think it might be a mentality changer for Kubiak, but it's also going to be a great test for him to see where he is as a quarterback after the fireworks he put on display at the stadium the other night.
I'm now realizing that Kirk Cousins probably wandered on the field, saw Daniel Hunter, saw Will Anderson, saw all those other guys, and said, "Hey, Coach, I think Fernando's ready to get some first team reps." I'm kind of feeling there might have been a veteran move by Kirk Cousins.
My shoulder's a little sore. Can I go get checked out?
I'm hitting the hand too much here. I get hitting the hand too much. This is a great learning experience for the young guy. Throw him out there. Kind of like when I had a student teacher, and it's like, why don't you go take care of calf duty? You go take care of calf duty for me while I prepare my honors pre-calculus lessons here quietly. And how'd it go? And he comes in and it's like he's shell-shocked and everything like that. There you go. You'll learn something. Maybe it's a Cousins veteran move. Hey, you don't stay in the league for 20 years as Kirk Cousins without knowing some of the tricks of the trade like that.
Or practicing and butting heads with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., 27 snaps for a practice. Another quarterback that had a lot of narratives coming out of the NFL draft, who I think you and I kind of disagreed a little bit in terms of the selection itself. A lot of people, maybe even Sean McVay at the time, bristled at the selection of Ty Simpson in the first round to the Los Angeles Rams. gangbusters debut. You can't ask for any more than this. 21 of 25, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks from Ty Simpson. The preseason is all about overreactions. I saw one social media account compare one of the Buccaneers' backup quarterbacks to a right-handed Michael Vick. So people overreact in the preseason. Are you overreacting to the point that your thoughts on Ty Simpson have changed?
You can't throw a grenade at me like that. I'm trying to. Jalen Daniels?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, going back to Ty Simpson. He did well. That was nonsense. That entire procedure was a dog and pony show. He ran, I think, 10 boot passes into the flat. It was running the same play over and over and over again. And I feel like obviously you want to give these guys something positive to put on film for themselves.
Right.
Okay. And give them that debut. There was a little bit where I swear this was for the media, because I think the Rams were like, they heard the criticism, very national level. They sent their surrogates to explain the wisdom of their pick. We had to hear from like all the insiders, like, well, if Simpson never, ever, ever, ever plays, this is still a great pick for the Rams because it means Matthew Stafford won 5 more Super Bowls. Like, shut up. So, okay, Simpson goes out there and he runs the most vanilla playbook in history, the simplest, easy reader plays. He completes a bunch of them. They leave him in until the end of the fourth quarter. They leave him in there against guys who will never sniff the NFL. And then
future crypto bros and insurance salesmen and used car salesmen, guys that are going to be out of the league or playing in the UFL next year, right? That's who was on the field for the Chiefs defense.
That's who's on the field for the Chiefs defense at the end, and he's stroking it at that point. He's bang, 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 bang right down the field. Hey, that's great. It wasn't nothing because again he was poised. He did complete the passes, but it was a lot of fluff. It means nothing because again neither you or I expect anything in 2026. The Rams don't want anything in 2026. And I don't think they want anything in 2027 either. They want this to be part of this forever dynasty they think they're putting together.
Yeah, and my theory at the time was only strengthened by what I saw. And it's only one preseason game. It's only like a half of a game against backups or future guys out of the league. But if you're the Rams, you think you have a Super Bowl roster this year. You think that you're going to go to hopefully win the Super Bowl. You're picking 32nd next year, 31st, right? So you're not getting your quarterback next year.
Right.
If Matthew Stafford goes to a Super Bowl, I don't think he's going to walk off in the sunset. Doesn't seem like that kind of guy. Maybe he comes back in 2027.
Right.
Now you're talking about picking 20s, 30s again.
Right.
Matthew Stafford's 2 years older going into 2028 than he is in 2026. Perhaps he retires. You've had Ty Simpson sitting in the Sean McVay School of Quarterbacking, learning from Matthew Stafford. And if there's ever an injury to Stafford this year or next, he's going to be a better quarterback in week 10 this year than he was in week 1. He's going to be a better quarterback in week 15 next year than he was in week 1 that you wouldn't have with a rookie quarterback that you're picking in like the 4th round, right? So to me,
I mean, it's great. It's the same argument. Oh, they've got Zach Wilson. They could put Zach Wilson there and do that. You can make that argument with Stetson Bennett. You could make that argument with Drew Aller, who we're about to do a segment on, and Cal Klubnik that we're doing this segment on. So it's an argument from absence, and the fact that he completed 21 short passes to the tight end on rollouts against third stringers doesn't change that. So yeah, that's all well and good. It was not a good investment of draft capital. Like, because they're going to pick 31st next year. They could have had Casey Concepcion. They could have a kick returner. They could have a punt returner who could give them a touchdown that they might need against the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game. So I can't keep relitigating Ty Simpson's draft pick for a team that's going to win a bunch of things anyway this year. It's just I'm not overly impressed by what I saw this week.
It's a future project. It's not about this year. And I didn't have a first-round grade on Ty Simpson. You didn't have a first-round grade on Ty Simpson. Somebody on Threads decided that Saturday was a great time to dig up Matt's old post that the Ty Simpson hype is out of control. So that gets, shared around right after the game.
You got somebody doing a victory lap on you on Threads during a preseason game.
I did, yes. I did not respond. I did not take the bait this time around, though. If it happens against the Niners later in the year, then I'll do the mea culpa, or you know what I mean. Like I can't go tit for tat on preseason backups.
That's such a great feeling, though. I love that feeling when somebody comes after you. Yeah, halfway through a preseason game. Well, this dipshit, I'm going to curse. This dipshit
Right.
doesn't know what he's talking about, and you're like dunking about the fact that he threw a touchdown pass against a third stringer of the Chiefs Saturday night in August. It's like, I'm living in your mind.
Yeah.
That means I'm living in your mind. That means we're relevant. That means people are sitting there listening to what we're saying, and they're like, "Oh my God, these idiots! I can't wait to prove them wrong." It's absurd, but it's a
Dude,
wonderful.
leave it holstered through the preseason. Leave it holstered through 2026. If you're right, if Sean McVay's right, and they had a first-round grade on him, if McVay had a first-round grade on him and Ty Simpson winds up proving all of us wrong, it's a much better dunk in 2027. Like, if you throw that in my face in 2027, I wind up in Old Takes Exposed, right?
Yeah.
You do it in August, and it's like, it's a blip.
You sound silly. It's like a self-own
Yes.
by whoever's doing it. I love it. You're a passionate fan and all. If you're a passionate fan, you know it's the preseason. You know you shouldn't be doing stuff like that. Save it for when everybody does their banana pants take, and that would be Sunday, 106 after the first catch in week 1. When your guy makes his catch, that proves everything. 7-yard reception in the flat. That's the proof I needed.
All right, buying or selling in Pittsburgh. Drew Aller, gangbusters debut. Can't ask for much more than what he did. The first throw of the game with the Caden Wetchen. Dude just ran out of gas. Like the 3-yard line got tackled, but Aller goes out 3 total touchdowns, no interceptions. Buying or selling what you saw?
I'm buying in the sense that I'm going to push him past Will Howard.
Okay.
And put him in that position to maybe be in the thing where, if Rodgers gets hurt in a game, Mason Rudolph finishes the game, but if it's a 6-week injury, they go to a Drew Aller. I might be more skeptical of what I saw from Aller than what I saw from Simpson, because, well, again, for Weechen's touchdown, it was a defender fell down. It was a 10-yard in, and the guy ran 50 yards and ran out of gas. Some of the later plays, there was a lot of penalties.
Yeah,
you watch it. It's like third down. He doesn't make the play. Penalty. We'll do it if he gets the touchdown. But it was strong overall.
Yeah, and I'm kind of buying the future in Pittsburgh happening quicker than maybe we thought. I think that this is like the foundation that you're building.
Right.
And you think back to like May and June, after I spoke to James Franklin about this, after all of those reports came out of Pittsburgh that Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff were tearing Drew Aller down to the 5-star studs and building him back up. It seems like all of that construction is starting to pay some dividends. It just seems like the timing route over the middle that I saw on the practice field in Latrobe was a very similar route to Weechen's, run over the middle. If they're 2-3 after starting the season against the Falcons, at the Patriots, against the Bengals, against the Browns, and then against the Indianapolis Colts, if it's starting to slip away and teeter, like I have no loyalty to Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is the reason that you have a losing record after the first month of the season, I am beginning the conversation about the future happening faster than people expected.
Okay, so what are you suggesting that Rodgers might have an injury and disappear on his own because of his ego, or that he's actually going to get benched by anyone in that Steelers organization?
There's non-zero chance of either. He could just say, like, I'm done. I didn't come back at age 42 season to do this. McCarthy could look at it and say, this isn't the quarterback that I coached back in 2003 or whatever.
Yeah, there's no way McCarthy brings that hell, that lightning, that lava upon himself, especially because Rodgers seems to be tight with the other higher-ups in the organization at this point. They've bought his thing hook, line, and sinker. So you are not going to be able to sell me on a benching. You can sell me on an injury, of course, and you can sell me on an air quotes injury in which Rodgers declares that something has happened, that he's needed on Mars or something like that. He's needed to go save the astrophage or whatever. That kind
Try
of
out the new horse dewormer, right? The off-brand horse dewormer is going to sign him to an endorsement deal.
Yes, that he is needed elsewhere in the galaxy and therefore has to go. But you're not going to talk me into seeing Drew Aller in the lineup in 2026 unless an emergency crisis catastrophe of that magnitude has happened.
Bigger picture for the Steelers, though, I think you're starting to see what that passing offense is going to look like come together. And Jeremy Bernard looks like that tried and true number 3 wide receiver. And if there's anything that I think Steelers fans should be optimistic about of this Aaron Rodgers situation, because I'm bearish on Aaron Rodgers, I think you are to a certain extent. The fact that you have a DK Metcalf, a Michael Pittman Jr., Jeremy Bernard finding ways to get open and catching everything thrown his way.
Right.
Pat Freiermuth is still there. It just seems like they have the weapons around him. It seems like the offense has multiple competent receivers that you're not trying to figure out what Calvin Austin's going to give you. You're not going to try to figure out what Darnell Washington, he's still on the roster, but he's not going to need to play as significant of a role as the 6 tight end in Arthur Smith's 8 tight end scheme. You have NFL caliber wide receivers, and you might have 3 of them that you can do some pretty fun things from a schematic standpoint with.
I have a feeling you are going to see a lot of Darnell Washington because the worry isn't necessarily the weapons, but the protection for a quarterback who will not take a hit, will refuse to take a hit, could get broken if he takes a hit, does not want to take a hit. So a lot of that 2-3 tight end stuff, I think you're still going to see variations of it as they do a lot of max protect. But when you're doing max protect, it can't just be what it was last year, max protect and DK Metcalf, the only guy who was getting open short and who Rodgers really trusted. You mentioned Bernard, looks like a get open short guy. You mentioned Pittman, who is a get open short guy. That is kind of his thing. And Metcalf can kind of do anything you want him to do at this point. That's enough. So if it's 2 of them, if it's 3 of them, if it's 2 tight ends, a back, and those guys, there's going to be enough opportunities there that Rodgers should be able to get the ball out quickly to somebody who can do something with it. That could be helpful.
If you oblige me for a minute, I'm going to get on my soapbox here. I'm going to sit up on my big soapbox.
Is that like
I have a soapbox?
Is that like an old phone book or something that you just got on?
The little back pillow on the back of the chair. I lowered it down so that I can, get on my soapbox and raise my hand at the town hall meeting. And I'm going to just make a proclamation to you here, Mike, and to everybody listening. The Jets should play Cade Klubnik week 1.
Oh, God.
Cade Klubnik should be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets because I just don't understand for a franchise that is still in draft talent acquisition mode, young player evaluation mode, early stages of a potentially promising rebuild mode, why you should play Geno Smith this year in the year of our Lord 2026. And I watched Cade Klubnik against the Buccaneers. I saw him make some really nice throws over the middle. Saw a nice tight window throw to Mason Taylor. Nice throw, a bit of a hospital ball, but still a catchable ball to Garrett Wilson, who might be one of the most underrated receivers in the game of football. Not underpaid, but underrated. Showed some sound decision-making. Cade Klubnik looks like he should be the present of the New York Jets. Because what does playing Geno Smith give you? You're not winning this year. You're not contending for the division title this year. You can, find a quarterback many ways. And I'm not saying Cade Klubnik's the guy. I'm not saying that he is for sure. But what if he is? What if Frank Reich, this is a Carson Wentz, Sam Bradford situation? What if Frank Reich finds something in Cade Klubnik and you have not won that 2, but 3 first-round picks to build around Cade Klubnik next spring? And if he's not the guy, then you're going to be picking first anyway with 2 other first-round picks. I yield.
Okay. I'll get out. I got my soapbox here. The Football Outsiders Almanac, which is the size of a phone book. Okay. Matt, you need to stop watching preseason football.
My wife will appreciate that.
Every young quarterback you see who completes a pass, you go bananas for. Okay, I respect it with Drew Aller. There's 3 touchdowns, alma mater. I respect it with Ty Simpson, first-round pick. We were all watching 21 and 24. It's hard not to argue with that. You're talking about Klubnik. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but sometimes the argument is well, Geno Smith is old and dead, so why not just put a potted plant out there? Just put a potted plant out there and lose this year, okay? Because that's kind of what the argument is with Klubnik. Well, he's a potted plant. Okay, you could probably make the same argument with Brady Cook, the 3rd stringer.
We've seen Brady Cook. We've seen Brady Cook. But Brady Cook is what he is, right? I mean, Kid Klubnik's a rookie. He was a 5-star kid coming out of high school. He was supposed to be the guy, and then he wasn't because Dabo Swinney. He had Trevor Lawrence, and that built up his reputation at Clemson, right?
Well, you know what? I've seen Dabo Swinney be good. I don't know if I've seen Klubnik be good. So I mean, that's what it comes down to. The thing is, if you're Aaron Glenn, and you announce that Klubnik is your starter, guys like Demario Davis and Minka Fitzpatrick auto mutiny. They go in auto mutiny mode. Garrett Wilson, who's probably going to be in trade me mode in 3 weeks, goes trade me mode immediately, and he goes the way of Sauce. And the first round picks from 3 years ago are gone again, which is a Jets tradition. And then, Brick Johnson or whoever runs that damn team now, so after a couple of losses says, "You are fired, Aaron Glenn." And again, that's probably going to happen by Thanksgiving anyway. But it's like you put that target on yourself. The unfortunate reality of the NFL is the Jets do not have a good quarterback. I saw no evidence that Klubnik was anything other than that kind of guy. I haven't heard anything since like July 31st suggesting he was that kind of guy in camp. So you do what you do in the NFL, which is you put your veteran quarterback out there, which your veteran defenders and veteran receivers happy. You let that play out. Maybe you get to 2-4, 2-5, 3-4. Maybe you scam some wins somewhere. I don't know where you're going to find them. And then you can look at it and say, well, if it's not an emergency, we ride. And if it is an emergency, then you start playing games with these guys like Klubnik. I can't imagine going out there and saying, hey, we're doing this now. If you're going to do that, then you have to never even get Geno in the first place and don't get DeMario. And get the craziest rookie coach you can even think of and say, you have to do whatever we tell you to do because we're doing a rebuild year. You don't do that with the configuration of the Jets roster now.
My whole thing is the roster isn't configured to win now. They tried to build a competent defense, right? They go out, they get Minka. They brought in the safety from the Seahawks a year ago. They brought in a bunch of pieces. Mm-hmm. On defense to kind of give Aaron Glenn the weapons on that side of the ball, which he's supposed to be the specialist at, alongside Dan Campbell during his time calling the defenses for the Lions.
Right.
But I just don't see a close to 500 team with Geno Smith or without him. And if you're not a 500 team with the veteran quarterback and you have the 3 first-round picks, I'd like to know what I have in the project quarterback who I drafted, because I feel like I'm spinning my wheels trying to keep a couple veterans invested for a few weeks by playing Geno. I just don't know what Geno Smith gives you other than keeping guys reasonably semi-bought in.
That's the bed the team made this offseason.
Yes.
It's the bed they make often, but they made this very specific version of this bed this time. And you can't – and it's hard to even analyze the league in the with the mentality that anyone but these 6 teams might as well do the tank job now. Like, we can all run the risk of that. Where it's like, well, if you're not the Rams, Seahawks, Bills, main that short list, then you might as well just try what the rookie is. The Jets are further down the list than some of the teams on that with that description, but that kind of becomes a little bit of a default attitude, and we can toy with that. The Jets can't. The Jets simply cannot do that. And again, I didn't see anything. If Klubnik looked like Ty Simpson or Drew Aller, and you came at me with this, I would have to concede, maybe there's something there. This might be building off what's happening at camp. This is the momentum. But we're basing this off of, 12-yard pass to Mason Taylor. That's what we're basing this off.
Yeah, and a lot of times we're going to see this with all of these kids, right? When this weekend, when you see what they're going to do in week 2 of the preseason, because you can have that great preseason game, but how do you build on it? What are you after that? And I think that it becomes a clearer picture, as clear as you can get from a preseason game after 2 and 3 times out there rather than 2 or 3 drives.
Exactly, and we'll see more of this. And we'll start learning things in the next 2 preseason weeks in terms of who gets auto benched because they're considered a starter or important now, who's in danger of losing a job. None of these guys are, because they're quarterbacks who are higher draft picks. They're going to wind up at least on the practice squad. And who's getting out there getting work. For guys like Al or Klubnik, it's like, are you the primary backup? That's a good piece of information. Simpson, it sounds like they're going to at least say Stetson Bennett's the backup. We'll see how that really plays out. But you'll start learning things like that about these guys in the next couple of weeks.
For sure. I just wonder if Geno Smith's best value isn't as trade bait for a quarterback desperate team, a team that, needs that veteran that's actually close. But one player who I think is really interesting, one quarterback situation who just blew up over the last couple of weeks is after Kevin O'Connell names Kyler Murray the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Where do the Vikings go from here with J.J. McCarthy? Because he's saying all the right things about how he loves the organization and he wants to be there. But in the next breath, will say that he still believes he's a starting quarterback in this league. And you and I have talked to enough general managers. We've talked to enough coaches. There is not a head coach in the NFL who has ever met a former first-round pick that he doesn't believe that his system and his coaching ability can rehabilitate, right? That he can't be the guy that fixes the quarterback. So I spoke to an executive for Monday's column who told me that he believes J.J. McCarthy's trade value is maybe a fourth-round pick. That at best, he's a fourth-round pick because he's already had the knee injury, only flashed very briefly, and then he took a pot shot at Kyler Murray and Kyler Murray's work ethic and dedication. But what do you think here? Is that a fourth-round pick for J.J. McCarthy? Is that just hyperbole? Somebody trying to tamp down even further what J.J. McCarthy is from the trade market standpoint? Or do you think that that's realistic in terms of what he might be worth on the open market?
It's too high. Period. It's too high.
Yeah.
I thought you were. Did you talk to Brzezinski, the new general manager of the Vikings? Is that who you talked to? I think he's worth a second-round pick. It's too high. What did Kenny Pickett go for when the I'm sorry, I should have looked this.
I feel like it was a pick swap. I feel like it was one of those pick swap type of trades. But
yeah,
I can look that up on the fly.
If you could, I'm sorry. This is bad preparation on my part. We started talking beforehand about other stuff, and one thing led to another. Kenny Pickett is the best analog that I can think of for the J.J. McCarthy situation, where in his second season, they anointed him. They handed him the job. And it was like, this is not happening. And no matter how much internal, we love you, Kenny Pickett, they tried to foist upon the public. Nobody was believing it. What was the compensation?
It was a trade to the Eagles involving backup quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a fifth-round pick.
All right, so
a fifth-round pick and a throw-in.
The Eagles sent Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a fifth-round pick for J.J. McCarthy.
For Kenny Pickett, yes.
For Kenny Pickett,
yes.
Excuse me, senior moment. Okay, that's higher than I thought it was going to be. So, okay, maybe fourth round, that's reasonable. He's about to go on the failed prospect walk of shame.
Yeah.
Where he goes from guru to guru, and the gurus keep him around for a year and then send him on his merry way packing. And then if he explodes, if he does a Darnold in 3 years, all the gurus take credit for it.
Right.
He's on all of our victory lists. He's on
Kyle Shanahan he was a backup in San Francisco for half a season, and Kyle Shanahan gets the credit. And
yeah, that's how they do it. And so they get passed around like a joint at a concert, and then maybe they pop up. But for every Darnold, there's like 20 of them that you never see them again. You see them you see Trey Lance out there running around for the Chargers in preseason game, throwing pick sixes against the Texans. That's what you see next. That's what I think is happening, and I think that's where the value is around the league. I know we're about to talk about landing spots, but the level of pessimism I have around this kid's career moving forward is stratospheric.
Did you talk about not seeing it? Neither of us saw it in Ty Simpson in terms of being a first-round pick.
Right.
I was at Beaver Stadium when Michigan beat Penn State 13-10, and they called two passes in the second half.
Right.
It was just 30 runs, two passes, death by 1,000 paper cuts for Penn State. Right. But I'm watching J.J. McCarthy, and it's okay, I get it. Blake Corum, he's really good. He's really dominant. But Sherrell Moore, you don't trust J.J. McCarthy enough to throw it more than 2 times and a half. And then there's you talk about the guru walk of shame coming out of Indianapolis. It was the praise parade. Oh, it was so good on the board in the meetings. Nobody knew the playbook better in our conversations with any of these quarterbacks than J.J. McCarthy. Well, which is it? Is he this bright tactician earmarked to be a future quarterbacks coach 4 years down the line? Or is he the guy that you think can run a run-based offense and be a game manager for you? And maybe he becomes Baker Mayfield, right? Like, what is he? I don't know. I don't know that he's ever going to be what the people in the combine, coming out of that combine, thought he was going to be, and what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell thought that he could be at the NFL level.
Yeah, there is a degree of trust what you see, not what you hear, especially when that echo chamber of praise bubbling up from like the Harbaugh factory of people into the ears of everybody in the league, and all of that sort of thing happens. And then, like you said, you saw with your own eyes, Moore didn't trust him in a close game to like throw the ball a couple of times. It's similar to what would happen with Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco, where you'd hear about, leadership and poise and things like that. And Kyle Shanahan, if he had a 3-point lead, it's like we are handing off 6,000 times and throwing a screen pass to Christian McCaffrey or Debo. That is all we are doing. And that's an indication that the limitations are there. And then this maturity thing. Did you read Ty Dunn has done a little series?
I've read the first half. Read the first half of the series. Very well reported as always. I mean, he's the gold standard in terms of getting 18 different sources to go on the record and off to talk about guys.
Absolutely. And so Go Long is Ty Dunn's Substack
site,
and it's very detailed. A lot of Kyler Murray stuff, a lot of Cardinal stuff in there, but a ton of things about what JJ McCarthy himself, like all the maturity talk when there was adversity in the last 2 years, when there were times when he shouldn't have been scoring own goals on himself in terms of talking about himself as 9 and things like that. Ty goes into like what happened and how it was met by his teammates, by the people within the organization, where you realize, oh, you want this heady game manager guy, but at the same time, he's out there celebrating touchdowns before he goes across the goal line and other mistakes like that. That's the kind of thing that just evaporates. All that talk about leadership and maturity and what he is behind the scenes, it evaporates like smoke in a situation like that. And that's why I think a 4th-round pick might be a super optimistic number in a trade.
Yeah, you can't hide what happens on the field. You can't hide what happened against the Lions last year. You can't hide, even the injury history plays a factor in downplaying it. But, you look around the league, this is the time of year and this is the type of situation where you have a former first-round pick, where you might need a quarterback. Like either your guy gets hurt or your guys are already hurt. And I look at the Falcons and I look at that disaster on Friday night and Cooper Rush being the best alternative with Michael Penix and Tua Tagovailoa. Penix did not play, Tua did. I look at Atlanta. If you have 3 backup quarterbacks, that means you still don't have a starting quarterback. And if I can throw a 4th-round pick to get a 4th backup quarterback who might be able to start, I'm going to bring him in just to see, just for funsies, just to see if he can be the best of that bunch with the weapons that I have with Drake London and Bijan and Kyle Pitts. He's leaving a situation with Justin Jefferson. Doesn't get much better than that, of course, but change of scenery, different quarterback in the room. I'm taking a 4th-round flyer so that I know whether I need to spend my 1st-round pick next year.
Is the plan to scavenge body parts from JJ McCarthy? Take some ACLs, give them to Penix, take some other body parts, maybe an arm, give it to Tua. Is that the plan? Because all you're doing, it's like there's 3 cars up on blocks out in front of the house, and you're just putting another car on blocks out there.
Yeah, I know what I have in Tua and Penix, and that's a major injury issue. Right. And they're guys that Tua, at his best, you can make a case, but the concussions and all the other injuries have mounted. Penix, you don't know that he's going to be healthy. I'm just looking at the investment as a 4th-rounder. I know JJ has the knee. I get it.
Yeah, knee had like 3 injuries last year, too. Why not send him to the Jets?
Could work.
Better than Klubnik, right?
Maybe.
Right. Maybe similar. Maybe similar to Kerplunknik. When you asked me to pick somebody, I said the Patriots, because he is in hide on the bench for contender mode at this point in his career. And Dan's card is full with the Rams. They have no more guys they can hide on the bench. The 49ers cannot goof around. They have to keep Mac Jones back there because the substation is going to claim them all, and that's going to be the end of that. But the backup in New England is Tommy Cutlets. I don't recall him playing super well. I don't care one way or the other. He's Tommy Cutlets.
Right.
Tommy DeVito. He's not Tommy Cutlets anymore. He's Tommy Chowder. But like, there's a place where it's like you want your career rehabilitation. Go sit with Josh McDaniels in the room, watch Drake May, settle down the conversation around yourself, emerge as a guy who learned his lesson. And that might be the best place. And you're probably better than Tommy DeVito. That's what I put in. Any place where it's like, oh, we might need a quarterback right now. You know who needs a quarterback right now? Minnesota Vikings. That was the job he was supposed to have. He lost it to the Call of Duty kid. Okay?
Right.
So that ship has sailed. If you're going someplace, go someplace where you can hide behind Josh Allen, hide behind Drake May, etc., and then emerge as a new guy in 2027, like a bunch.
And Kevin Stefanski, I kind of wrote about this in the column as well. You look at the Browns situation and how terrible that is with Deshaun Watson and Dylan Gabriel and Shador, and how incompetent that quarterback situation is now. Is this foisted on him in Atlanta? You bring in J.J. McCarthy, hypothetically, you're that next guru. You're that next voice. You want validation? You want to prove that, like, hey, I am actually a quarterback whisperer. I didn't just get saddled with terrible quarterbacks. I'm going to fix JJ. It's a great reclamation project for both of them.
Yeah, those gurus, they're not big on accountability. They don't need to.
No.
Right. It's always got to be something that happened down the road, down the range. It's never like, well, my career is resting upon this, which is what Kevin O'Connell just did. My career is resting upon the fact that I can auto-tune J.J. McCarthy into a superstar. Oh, it didn't work. That was Quessie's idea.
Right.
You know?
We fired him in Mobile.
Right, exactly. We fired him as soon as we possibly could. So there's no way Stefanski, who's got that mess down there in Atlanta, wants to add more to the mess. He's going to look at this season. He's going to be like, well, Penix was hurt. That was going to be the guy. Tua was the stopgap. Penix was hurt. Get me a quarterback next year. That's how this game is played. So it's got to be a McVay, a LaFleur, or somebody like that. It can be like, yeah, you come in and I'll say like a Latin mass over you and wave my hands upon you and then go on to the next stop.
Kevin checks in the chat. Is this the year Kevin Stefanski gets exposed? He doesn't have anybody to work with. Like I said on social media on Friday night during that slop fest, if you're a quarterback whisperer, who are you even whispering to right now? Who on that roster is worth whispering to or is going to benefit from his coaching?
Yeah, Stefanski has plot armor. Because when it's 4-13, well, the quarterbacks. When it's 9-8, look what he did. That's so he has plot armor built in for this year. Oh, the team's a mess. All the edge rushers got hurt, so their defense stunk. Their quarterback stunk. They stunk. Next year, coach of the year, third time in 7 years, because he can like wobble back and forth. They'll bring in whoever, name the backup quarterback.
Mac Jones.
They'll bring in Mac Jones. He gets them to 9-8. Pearson Walker come back, whatever. So I don't see him getting exposed. I honestly don't think he's that terrible a coach because he has been bad situations. It's the way these perceptions are built around these guys, and they're very good at managing their reputations. I think Stefanski is as guilty of that as anyone.
A situation that I think is really fascinating. We've talked a lot about the quarterback position on this podcast. We'd love to switch gears, talk about a wide receiver room. There's one fewer guy in a room that was a lot of guys in New York with East Rutherford. But the Giants cut Juju Smith-Schuster today from a really crowded wide receiver room after they signed Najee Harris. We could touch on that signing a bit as well. But wanted to pick your brain on this. We saw them a little bit last week. Who's in and who's out? And will it matter? Will it matter who the Giants' 4 wide receivers not named Malik Neighbors turn out to be?
Right. Well, let's start with the obvious. Okay, Malik Neighbors in, and it looks like he's going to be healthy early in the year.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Malachi Fields in. He's been working out with, you saw him and you profiled him, and he's been working with the starters.
Big catch radius.
Yep.
Good kid. Right kid.
Mm-hmm.
Takes the role of a rookie seriously. Him and his wife made homemade Rice Krispies treats to provide to the position group meeting at Malik Neighbors' request. Big catch radius. You saw him score the touchdown against the Vikings in the opener. I'm with you there. There are two of your 5 positions are locked down.
Okay. Darius Slayton in. He's the only guy who remembers all the passwords and everything for the computers in Giants headquarters.
Once a Giant, always a Giant, and somehow Darius Slayton has survived multiple regimes in East Rutherford. Good player, really steady locker room leader, presence guy. Yeah, I think Slayton makes the squad.
Okay, there's like 200 guys, so we're gonna let's see. Darnell Mooney's an interesting one because normally you'd say yes. What's your take right now?
Yeah, I heard he was having a really good camp, but
Okay.
then the knee got banged up, right? And it just seems like they really like the idea of Darnell Mooney, but do they like Darnell Mooney? I
Right.
guess we'll see how much he's able to play in the preseason the rest of the way. But I would go Mooney, and I got to go Braxton Berrios
Okay.
because he's special teams guy, return specialist. A couple of the beat reporters up there were in our conversations. They said that they've been impressed by Braxton Berrios. So my five: Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Malachi Fields, Braxton Berrios, and Darnell Mooney.
All right. So let's see. Yeah, we saw a bunch of Barrios. And we didn't see much of Calvin Austin. And I think both of them are battling for return man. So winner gets to be on the roster because they're the punt returner, and the loser gets to go home. So hold on, let me pull up my roster again. Neighbors, Fields, Slayton, I go with Barrios. Now you got that number 5, and our choices. You went with Mooney.
Mooney, yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. Jalen Hyatt's out. We didn't even see him. He's hurt, right?
He's hurt. He's a guy they really liked, but he never translated.
Right. Well, Odell Beckham.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Great story. Great story having him back there. And I think that fan favorite, they would love it. But who are you take? Do you take Mooney off for Odell? Like, what does Odell need to do over these preseason games? Does he need to show you anything, or is it just the fact that he's Odell Beckham and he's been there, and the Gen Z kids who are in that locker room right now, loves him and played him in Madden when they were growing up. Oh, is Odell Beckham Jr. Is that enough? Like, is that enough to give a roster spot to?
No, because you got to play teams. You got to play special
right.
if you're the 5.
Yeah.
And they could keep 6, certainly, but I don't know what they gained from that. He's been working with the 3s. He was out there in the third quarter of the preseason game. So if you're talking about guys who are useful on special teams, it might wind up being Xavier Gibson. It might be Isaiah Hodgins. These guys way down at the bottom of the roster because, you're ideally Malik Neighbors is the straw that stirs the drink. And Fields is a jump ball guy, and Slayton does all the stuff Slayton does. And you got your nifty, shifty return man and Barrios. You need teams guys, and that's where I don't think it's going to be Beckham. And I got this feeling that Mooney is just that whatever's happened the last couple stops, including Atlanta, it's what you said. They like the idea of Darnell Mooney, and it never turns into somebody that is in the lineup doing the things that you expected him to do, and teams wind up sort of souring on him. And I'm wondering if that's happening right now.
And Elder Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, another, but Bateman never leaves. Bateman is like Bateman is Slayton without the 2 long touchdowns a year where you're like, oh, wow, I guess he still produces something. And like, he's only there because of 5 injuries, which is usually what Slayton's story is. It's like, no, they just like putting Bateman out there,
The bigger question here is, we talked about the players in the mix. We talked about the potential makeup of the room after final cuts. Will it wind up mattering? Because I just don't know. Like, I think that Malik Neighbors, if he's fully healthy, I think there's a ton of upside there. Like, I think he can be a top 10 receiver in this league based on traits and based on explosiveness. Fields is exciting. Red zone guy, move the chains guy. It's, 3rd and 10. You're going to catch a 14-yard pass. You're going to also give the big play because you can run the 9 route and jump over a dude because you can jump out of the room with this insane catch radius. It's exciting. Jackson Dart took another big hit, and it's this compounding effect of, in a vacuum, the sack that, Tyrone Tracy just decided he didn't feel like blocking today. That hit in a vacuum is bad. The fact that he went in the medical tent 5 times last year makes hits like that potentially each one more catastrophic than the one before. So does this receiver competition and whatever this receiver room winds up being, does it even matter?
Yeah, and then you have that extra layer of, well, I don't know what the big deal with the concussion tent is, where you start asking, is he going to take the thing seriously he needs to take seriously? There's been talk about, well, they really want him to slide. They really want him to slide. If his mindset is, well, I don't slide. I take hits and bounce off of them. That's just a worry on top of a worry there. The Giants are a high volatility team. Like, early on in the offseason, everybody was pretty bullish on them. The Malik Neighbors injury looked super serious. Folks became much more bearish. Now we're getting good news about Malik Neighbors. There's more bullishness. There's a back and forth with Dart in terms of how optimistic you are with him. Pass rush is an issue. They're a team that could be that team. Like, you cannot convince me for in the world that the Falcons could be that team. You cannot
No.
that the Titans could be that team. There's like 8 or 9 teams that we could say that. The Giants could be that team. They could do almost like a Patriots type thing. You can see the possibility of it there. They could also just goof around at 6-11 or whatever, as they so often do. It's hard to say right now, but it probably does matter, because if they've got that potential to do that, then you want a receiving core that's going to help this guy. You want complementary pieces to Neighbors. You want somebody there if Neighbors isn't there week 1, week 2. And that's where your Fields is, your Moonies, maybe your OBJs, who knows? That's where all of that stuff matters.
I think they're going to have the opportunity to win a lot of games, like 23-17. Like I see that defense being really, really good. I mean, when you have the chance to potentially run out there at the same time, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, the Kayvon Thibodeau is still hanging around, and Arvell Reese, who just looks like he's playing with his hair on fire,
right.
Looked great in his debut in the preseason against the Vikings from a read and react and explosiveness, get into the backfield, make a play perspective.
Right.
You're right. It is going to matter if for Jackson Dart to make the leap, for you not to lose those games 17-14. You're going to need somebody other than Malik Neighbors to step up and provide some depth of targets in that passing game. Going to be fascinating to see who it winds up being, whether it's Malachi Fields, whether it's Berrios on a big play once in a while, whether Slayton's your high-volume target. Going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. Giants are a team that I think ceiling is NFC wildcard.
Yeah.
Floor is 6 wins because the offense didn't make the leap, and you have the quarterback conversation going into next year.
Yeah, 6 wins because they sacked the daylights out of like the quarterbacks on a bunch of teams and did enough. And that's about it. Again, you can talk me into, they're a wild card because ABC happened, which is not something we can have a conversation about the Cardinals, for example, about. Can we transition into what we got coming up? Because it makes sense right here.
Yeah, what do you got coming up?
Well, you profiled Fields. Something that Harbaugh said after the game about they got Fields specifically for the jump ball touchdowns. Specifically jump ball touchdowns near the goal line from the scrambling quarterback, because that's what Dart did, scrambled and threw the touchdown pass. And Harbaugh said something to the effect that that's the thing. You need a guy that when the quarterback is scrambling, is in the end zone getting open, can jump in the back, et cetera, to get that kind of play. So what I did was I went back and looked at the scrambling goal line touchdown passes by quarterbacks around the league, looked at the numbers of guys like Jackson Dart. Numbers weren't good. Josh Allen, numbers were very good. And a lot of other guys in between to kind of see what Harbaugh was talking about. And that's one of a couple of segments that's going to be in your inbox tomorrow if you're a Two Deep Zone subscriber. What about you?
Make sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. That is appointment reading. I'm going to wake up and have my Nitro Cold Brew in hand, read that on the deck tomorrow morning. Cannot wait to get my hands on it. We have the mailbag coming up on Friday. Send in your questions at Matt Lombardo NFL on Threads, Matt Lombardo on Blue Sky. I'll pose all of those questions to current coaches and executives and scouts, some former players, agents, whoever I think could give the best answer. And I'll answer the questions with their insight on Friday. And then on Monday in 4 Downs, we'll recap the biggest takeaways, including which quarterbacks made the leap from week 1 to week 2 and which ones were fool's gold in week 1 based on what we saw in the opener of the preseason. Mike, it's been a lot of fun. Make sure you follow Mike Tanier on Blue Sky. Subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. You can check me out on Blue Sky as well at Matt Lombardo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers. Got to get there. At Matt Lombardo 975, and of course, betweenthehashmarks.com. $1 today gets you the next 3 months for free. Great deal. Come on board.
That's a great deal. I'll tell you, we got through this episode without me spiraling, which is new. Last year I've gone into a little spiral, but this is what almost got me. If this is the Fight Club, does that mean I'm not real?
Find out next week on the Between the Hashmarks podcast. We'll talk to you then. I'm Matt Lombardo. We think he's Mike Tanier. Have a great week.